Hey guys, it's Eric and I'm back. Here today to talk about the time we've all been waiting for, that peak rut. More specifically, what I like to call the early peak rut and how to hunt that. So let's get into it. We're just moving off of that scrape week. We're still tail end of that as you're seeing this video, end of October, first few days of November. But as soon as those scrapes die off, you're going to start seeing bucks really cruising hard that have it already. Plus some chasing. You'll see the first few, the first decent size, not the very first estrus doe, but the first decent, multiple estrus doe come into heat before the full-blown lockdown. And, you're going to have some great opportunities in the woods, especially, following a cold front. So how do you go about this? Well, piggybacking off the pre-rut, I'm still rolling even harder on the morning hunt train. If I can only hunt half the day, I'm choosing the morning every time. Colder gets, bucks are on their feet longer. They're taking longer back to bed, but I'm moving away from the buck bedding now. Once I know that these bucks are starting to really look and they've kind of, covered their home range pretty well, I'm getting into those pinch points. I'm getting into those spots where, you might have, an edge of laurel meet, field edge of laurel meet an acorn patch, transition areas like that where deer would cruise. And of course, I'm getting into that doe bedding. Downwind side of doe bedding, not only does it cover your scent, but you're going to be down seeing those deer scent check, those bucks coming through scent checking for does. And that's when you get into those kind of more successful hunts in the mid to late morning, where bucks are kind of waiting to make sure those does are coming back to bed when they cruise that. Really good. Now, granted, evening hunting, if you have an unpressured food source like on private land where you still have does hitting, that's a great spot to set for a buck right now. Any of those does hitting that food source coming to heat are going to draw bucks from ways away and bring them into that food source to check them out. Now, like I said, I'm definitely focused more on mornings. And when it comes to calling, if you're on an unpressured piece of private land where you're getting more reaction, if you're out in the Midwest where you have a lot of low hunting pressure, calling work great. But if you're like me and you're in Pennsylvania, on public land especially, I'm the only call I use some is a bleat call, because it's not as aggressive as a grunt or rattle antlers for one. I did my first ever bow kill was a buck I bleated in back in 2015, and I have bleated some other bucks in, but I haven't had a lot of success with grunting and no success whatsoever with rattling on public land in Pennsylvania. So don't overthink the calling. And that even goes for private land as well. But yeah, the focus now, like I said, pinch points, doe bedding, places like that constrict movement. And, you're going to get those doe, those bucks looking for does. Especially like a public land, you look at like a clear cut that usually has a lot of deer bedding in it. You get like an old seismic trail, you can send 20, 30 yards off that seismic trail. There's a good chance a buck's going to come cruising through it. I'm moving away from the buck bedding just because those bucks are on their feet a lot more at this time and covering a lot more ground to try to find the next possible estrus doe to breed. Now, I'll get into a lockdown video here separately in the coming days, but obviously lockdown, those bucks are going to be, locked down those does, but when those bucks are looking and you're looking for a doe to breed, look for those concentrations of doe, those unpressured doe areas that you didn't go in, didn't kill during the archery season, didn't kill in the early season. Those are the ones that hopefully you've been saving, whether you're on private or public land, to get in there and catch a buck cruising through. It's a technique I've used a lot. Those areas where you have a lot of does and you haven't messed with them and they're still on relatively natural movement, those are those times, especially like those colder mornings. Now, granted, the timing of the front rut, it has no effect from the weather and the moon, as I've said in previous videos, but those colder mornings, those deer are more likely to breed during the day and cruise during the day than they are in the evening. So, it's early November. We're about to be early November as you're seeing this video. Bucks are going to be looking. Don't miss the opportunity to get out. Try to target those colder mornings and mornings more specifically right now. Like I said, if you can only have half a day, I'm taking the morning for sure over the afternoon this time of the year. And take advantage of those areas with doe concentration and move away from the buck bedding. So that's how I hunt the early peak rut, what I like to call the early peak rut. And next phase I'll talk about is the rut lockdown period. And yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel. And for those who have already done so, we appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and good luck in the woods.